these things so big? There we go. Yeah, that looks right. Let's see if people show up. Actually, am I live? Hang on. I should check that first. Yo, we're live. Let's go. Heck yeah. We love that. Oh, interesting. Okay. Alright, everything appears to be good. Oh, that's alright, that's alright. Welcome to the stream. Glad you can make it, Jaden. How's it going? Just gonna make sure chat's popping up on OBS. Yes, we're good. Everything's fine. I'm doing all the things right. Man, it's been a spell. How you doing? Also, happy belated birthday. I was gonna send you a message, but I forgot. Just finished my first day at a new job. Oh, let's go. Hopefully that was good. Hang on, I need a drink. Already. Does that bode well for the stream? We'll see. Thank you for the belated wishes. No problem, no problem. Oh, hang on. Let me turn this fan down so hopefully it's not as loud. Alright, there we go. Everything's fine. Everything's fine now. Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. We are going to be... we're going to be talking about the short film that I released, Don't Let It In. We're gonna watch the film together. I'm gonna, pause and offer commentary, just, little nuggets of behind the scenes stuff for you all here, because, I don't know. I just think it's really cool to do that, so people get a little sneak peek at the process that went into it. Let's see if we can get more people in here first, but then we'll jump right into it. First of all, if you haven't seen the short film Don't Let It In, I would highly recommend watching that first. So, if you haven't seen it, it's linked in the description below. There's a link in the description, because I'm not on Twitch. So, if you go down below, you can find a description, and there's a link there. It's crazy. What a world we live in. Is the music too loud? Or... I think it's fine. It should be fine. You'll let me know if it's not. Mic is a little loud? Okay. Alright. Let's see if we can fix that. I do have a compressor and a limiter on this mic, so hopefully that's doing something, but I can't really monitor everything on OBS like I can on like actual recording software, like audio recording. Hang on. Let me decrease the threshold. Compressor? I hardly know. Nice. Got him. I'm taking the threshold down. Is that doing anything? Oh, that's so much nicer. Is this better? Hello? Testing? 1 2 1 2. Check. Testing. Testing. That's better? Maybe turn the music down now? Alright, perfect. Alright. Hang on. We'll take down the music. There we go. Because I have my own separate volume for what's on my computer. So, like, I genuinely don't know how loud the music is for everyone. Once I'm a professional streamer, I'll invest in a mixer. But for now, that's a little bit not affordable. And by a little, I mean a lot. Yeah, hope that's better now. And we'll get into the short film soon. Very soon, very soon. But if you haven't watched it yet, the link is in the description. I think it's just you right now. Alright. We'll see if more people filter in. But yeah, I wanted to do a little behind the scenes stream because there's a lot of like backstory that goes into it that not many people who actually view the film get to know. So yeah, that's kind of why I do these. I like breaking down my short films, what was happening behind the scenes, and you know, showing all that went into it. I've watched it twice, great both times. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, it was really fun to make, and I'm so glad that people found it scary. You know, once you've like written something and then watched it like 1,000 times, you genuinely don't know if it's scary or not. Like it gets to a point where I've seen it so many times that I genuinely don't know if the plot makes sense anymore. Like it makes sense in my head because I've seen it so many times, but I don't know. I start to lose touch with like if the story is still like a story. So yeah. Your High School Musical video is 13K now. Also, yeah, the film was plenty scary. Glad to hear, glad to hear. And also 13K, that's great. It keeps
yeah, baby!
Hey there, Charlie. It keeps popping up on my recommended, like in my algorithm, even though I've watched it already. Like I love that. It was a great video, honestly. 13K views, heck yeah. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm looking at my YouTube recommended. I'm closing that now. YouTube's been pushing it well, absolutely. Dude, I'm still, just this morning, I got a comment on my, on my most, like, viral video on this channel, which is still going apparently. I didn't realize people were still watching that.
Yeah, baby!
But how many views is it at right now? Videos popular. Dang, 63? 63K? Yikes. And apparently it's still going. The thumbnail sucks. But yeah, man, a lot of my most popular videos are reaction content. Like that's the only stuff that manages to break 1K is my reaction videos. Huh. Interesting.
Yep.
That's gonna change. That's gonna change. Yeah, that is wild. It's crazy. I posted that, it was about 1.5 years ago. But, I mean the editing's on point, but the project itself was dumb. Man. So fun though. I mean, that's what got me all the subscribers I have on this channel, or at least a couple hundred of them. So they better stick around. Yeah. All right. I assume people are gonna just like slowly filter in, so I think I'm just gonna start. So a little bit of, I guess, kind of preamble. About pre-production, the pre-production preamble. So with this film, I wrote the script for it, or at least I started writing the script for it over the holidays, like during Christmas vacation, because I knew I was going to be incredibly busy. Got a dip. I might pop in later. Have fun, bro. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Hopefully see you later. Have a great rest of your day. All right. It's just me now. It's just me now. That's all right. You know what? I'm gonna talk anyways for the people who watch this in the future. Gosh darn it. So I started writing this film over Christmas break. I went through about four different iterations of the script before I settled on one that I thought was feasible. Because the first thing that you need to know is I was so busy this last semester. I was doing this film as a project for one of my classes, but I had a full course load. I was working as a teaching assistant, and I also had to do another film. So that's 2 short films this semester, and you'll see the next one probably later this month. But yeah, that's what I was up against. And so I wanted to make this film like as good as it could be, but also as easy on me as it could be. Like, I didn't have time to be managing like a massive cast going to various locations. So I'm like, all right, what's a script that I can do? What is a story I can come up with that requires as few characters as possible and can be done in ideally just one location, 1 or 2 locations. And so that's kind of what the goal of this exercise was. I went through a few iterations. The first iterations had a few more characters and quite a few sets and a lot of like complexity to the like I made a character that had like genuine goals in the film. He had baggage from his past that was like motivating him forward and all that stuff. And I might still do a project like that in the future. Like, I might take that initial idea of what this used to be and make something out of it in the future. So I'm kind of reluctant to tell you all what the story initially started as. So I may not say anything about what the story initially started as, but it ended up turning into the story of a man who's left at home alone with simple instructions from his father to not open the door under any circumstances. The initial working title of this project was Don't Open the Door. So if I ever slip up during this live stream and call it Don't Open the Door, that's because that was the original title that I was working under, and then I changed it later because I figured that it was a little too on the nose. And Don't Let It In is very ominous. Like, what is it? And why can't I let it in? So I thought that was a little bit more ominous and also less on the nose. So that's the direction that I went with for that. I think the final draft of the script was done in the 2nd or 3rd week of January. It might have been February. I can't remember at this point. I had a lot going on. But the point is, I had the final draft done by around then. We filmed, we did production on this film in March. Yeah, we did production on this film in March, but we had started planning well before then. I already, my lead actor, Ben, great guy. I've worked with him in the past. If you have seen my short film On That Night, he played a smaller role in that film. But yeah, I when I was coming up with the story, I already had him in mind for my lead actor. We had talked about doing a project at some point in the future, and so when I wrote this one, I asked if he was interested, and he thankfully jumped on board. And so we met. Well, we corresponded over messages for a while, and then we met in person as well, so I could kind of like go over the story with him, like all the different beats of the story, all of the emotions that the character was going to be experiencing, giving him kind of... I wanted to make him privy to the story that's not explicitly mentioned. Like, you know, there's a whole lot of implications in the story that aren't dwelt on too strongly. They're just used to kind of reinforce the ending, right? There's always been something under the surface happening in this world that is never directly addressed, but it culminates in that ending. And I'll get into that. So I wrote this quick horror piece about a guy at home who can't open the door, who is not supposed to open the door. And there are a couple illusions that I'm going to talk about during the actual film itself. But because this film is kind of like symbolic or representative of a different story, and we'll get into that. I have a couple Easter eggs hidden in the captions. So if you didn't watch this video with subtitles on, then you missed out. Yeah. So that's what I did for that. And anything else I need to talk about before I launch into it? Trying to think. Hang on. I need to send a message quick. Man, this music is nice. I just want to make sure I have all the preamble out of the way before we jump into the film itself. Production was done over the course of 2 days. We had to shoot on weekends just because of the availability of the location, as well as my lead actor. So we shot on weekends. The first shoot was the first day of production. We shot the last scene, the very last scene of the film, and that's all we did. And then the second day of production, we shot everything before. So yeah, we did all of that. And a good friend of mine was... A good friend of mine was generous enough to let us use his house as a shooting location. One of the big challenges I found during production was trying to make the house feel small, because you could definitely tell in the film, but the house was very spacious, to say the least. So I think my big challenge was making our protagonist feel claustrophobic even though he's in a wide open space. And a lot of that was done with like the kinds of shots that I did, the kinds of lenses I used, and lighting. So, and we'll get into that as we're actually watching the film. But that was the main challenge, was trying to make him feel closed in. What else? I did all the editing for this film. I edited all of this on DaVinci Resolve, which is a free editing software. I do have Premiere Pro, but I was filming using my Blackmagic camera, which is up there. You can't see it, but it's up there. I used my Blackmagic camera, so I shot in BRAW file type, which is only readable by DaVinci software. But honestly, that's for the better because I love their color grading tools on DaVinci. Their editing tools, especially for color grading, are some of my favorite that I've ever worked with, and I've used like 5 different editing softwares over the years at this point, 5 or 6. So I did all of the visual editing with the camera shots and angles and stuff in DaVinci, and then I did all of the sound design for this movie in Cubase, which is the industry standard for kind of like film productions. So yeah, that's what I did. Because I was doing this project was a final project for 2 classes, one of which was a class where I was supposed to write and direct a short film, so that's how that kind of fulfilled that requirement. But then I also used this as the final project for a recording and sound design class where I was supposed to do sound design on a video, and so I chose to do it on my own short film. And so the sound design was done over the course of like a month. I think I spent a solid month on the sound design for Don't Let It In. The editing itself I did in like a week, because editing comes really easy to me. The sound design I did over a month because I wanted it to be perfect, like as perfect as it could be. So that's how I edited the film, and I received a lot of comments, like compliments about the sound design, so I think it was worth it. This film I did submit it into a film festival where I ended up winning Best Director for my work on this film, so that was really exciting, and that's why it has the little like wreath thing that I made for the thumbnail. That is not officially licensed, but listen, I won Best Director. So yeah, I screened it at a festival in front of a panel of judges, very qualified judges who are professionals in the film industry, and so they decided to award me with Best Director for this film, which was really cool. There was an article about it, and yeah, it was really exciting. I'm glad people enjoyed it, and it sounded so good in the auditorium that we used. Man, it sounded so good. So yeah, that was a big point of professional pride with me, because I want to keep directing. I love being a director, and I've got so many good ideas in my head that I'd love to do at some point, but I need a budget. This was shot on 0 budget. I used all of the equipment I had available to me, all the resources I had available to me. But yeah, it was still a very fun and very rewarding project. So yeah, happy with how that turned out. Anything else I need to say before we jump into it? Hang on, I'm trying to think. I don't think so, and if I remember it later, then I can always just bring it up then. Oh. Hang on. All right. So here, I'm gonna close this down.
Two.
and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna watch the film with all of you, and I'm going to pause at certain points to kind of like break down not only what's happening, but also like, you know, maybe give some insight behind the scenes and just little techniques and tricks that I used that I think worked really well. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Oh, sorry. I'm yawning already. That's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. Whoa, I'm live? That's crazy. I search up my channel name and the first things that pop up are this live stream, the film itself, and the trailer. Alright, hang on. Alright. Dang. The recommended videos are all mine. That's crazy. Oh, are closed captions on by default? That's kind of nice. Hang on. We're gonna quickly do that. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the reaction. After all, I am a reaction channel, apparently. Do I want to say anything before we start officially? Oh yeah, so for sound design, like I said, I did this all in Cubase after the fact. Everything, well, almost everything that you hear was added in post. There are a couple sequences where I kept the natural sounds of the environment, but sorry, there's construction outside my window. Hang on. That was probably really loud. Sorry about that. Hang on. My light! No! Hang on. I can still save her. Alright. Everything is completely fine. Everything is fine. Ignore what just happened. Alright. The construction sounds shouldn't bother us anymore. Alright. So yeah, like I said, most of the sound effects that you hear and score and stuff was added in post. There are a couple sequences where I kept the natural sound of the environment, but most of the footsteps you hear were added in post. Most of the sound effects obviously are added in post, and I did a lot of editing in post so that this would sound good, especially if you're wearing headphones. This film is kind of optimized for headphone users. So let's get into it. Even the white noise in each frame was added in post, so yeah. Oh, hang on. What is happening? Hello? I can't hear anything. 1 second. Why can I not hear anything? Hello? I'm still plugged in, right? Yeah. Everything's in here. What? Hang on, hang on. We appear to be having some issues. What is going on? Sound. Is there a sound thing I need to hit? What is going on? Does YouTube sound not work? That's so weird. Hang on, we're gonna try this.
See ya. Baby! Yeah, baby!
Yeah, baby. Ooh, I gotta watch that after this. Let's try just watching it right here. Yeah, see, now it works. Okay. That's kind of odd, but alright. I'll allow it. Oh, wait, let me...
Yeah, baby! See ya.
Alright, there we go. The Moist Critical mod for Opera is great. Okay, now it should be fine. Now we should be rolling. So yeah, all the sound effects you hear, white noise, footsteps, all of that, it was edited in post. I'll highlight the couple sequences that aren't, but yeah, for the most part, all of the sound was added later in editing. So let's get into it. Wait, are captions on? I love this frame, by the way. Like this initial shot, I love it. I love this. Yeah, that door sound effect was added.
Dad?
I kept all the dialogue. I kept all the dialogue that we shot on location.
Hello?
If I had had more time, I would have ADR'd it, but I didn't have enough time before I needed this to be done. Just a little funny moment where he goes to... he picks up the coffee mug and recoils. I like that. These sounds were kept from the original. As well as the paper. But I think that's it for a while.
Hey Adam, I went to say goodbye to you this morning, but you were still sleeping.
The voice actor, that's my dad. I wanted someone who realistically sounded like they could be a dad, like they were old enough to be a dad, but all the actors I know are in their early 20s, so I didn't think it would work that well. So I had my dad voice act for this. We met over Discord because he lives way far away. But we met over Discord, and I had him record all his voice lines, like while I directed him. And so this is how we got all of his lines done. There was a little bit of white noise, like a little bit of background noise in the voice lines that we shot, just purely because his office is right next to the furnace room of the house, so there was a lot of like low frequency stuff in his voice lines. So I sent them off to a professional to kind of like get them de-noised a little bit, and the result speaks for itself. It sounds great.
There's a work-related emergency that I have to tend to. Don't worry about it, everything's fine, but I will be gone for a few days. There's plenty of food in the fridge and the cupboard, so help yourself and you'll be okay. But take care of the place while I'm gone, would you? P.S. Whatever you do, do not open the door, no matter what you hear on the other side.
And there's an insert of the door. So he is a pretty good voice actor. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? Yeah, he did a really good job. I appreciated it. A lot of people who were seeing this movie for the first time thought that was me doing the voice lines. I don't know why, because I feel like we sound different, but it was funny. What was I just about to say? So automatically there's some red flags going up that kind of tie into like the problems that are going on in this world. I left them intentionally vague because I didn't want to actually address or like explain the like supernatural occurrences later in the film. But there's enough of a clue here saying that like obviously whatever creature this is, it's tied to whatever Adam's dad does, because he obviously knows about it. Like something very wrong happened at his work, and then as a result of that, he's not supposed to open the door no matter what. So the implication there is kind of like, his dad does some kind of like, research or like study of something, like they have some kind of specimen at his place of work that has gotten out or whatever that is. Like I left it intentionally vague, whether it's like an SCP scenario, whether it's a supernatural or paranormal event. I'm not going to be the one to say, so it's kind of left up to the audience's imagination.
Huh.
We have a really quiet phone ring.
Hey, sorry I can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message. I'll call you back when I can. Thank you.
And a little filter on that to make it sound like it's coming from the phone. And here we get some music ramping up.
Well,
I can't get it out of my head. No, I can't shake this feeling that grows in my bed.
I should mention this scene, this sequence. We did quite a few takes, and you can see that from like all the jump cuts that we have. We figured that jump cuts were very appropriate for this kind of scene. I wanted I based a lot of this character's habits on myself, because like that's the biggest source of inspiration I have to go off of in terms of characterization is myself. So when I'm like just chilling at home alone, or if I'm like hanging out and no one's around, I'll have music in and I'll just be jamming out. It's not as exaggerated as this, but like I'll be jamming out to my own music, and just kind of like, I don't know, just listening to music and chilling. It's great. And so that's what he's doing in this scene here. I know Ben, he was pretty uncomfortable with just kind of like dancing alone in a room on camera, which is understandable because it's kind of like, it's not very normal. So what I was doing to kind of put him at ease is I was jamming out with him, like behind the camera. I was grooving along with him so that at least it was both of us doing it. So that's how we managed to shoot that. We did multiple takes of different energy levels, and I think we got some pretty great results from this scene. And the song itself is one that I made. It is a cover song, of course, but I made this from scratch myself. It was for a final project in a class I had done the semester previously. I had to make this song. And so I did all of the production on that. A couple of my friends are singing on it, so they're providing the vocals, but all the instrumentation was done by myself. So it's kind of like my creations are feeding back into themselves. I needed music for this scene where he's like jamming out and just kind of like, he's home alone and he's like having a good time. So I figured rather than risking copyright infringement, I will just use my own work. And so that's kind of what did that.
I try to hide it, but I know you know me. I try to fight it, but I'd rather be free.
And here you can see just a little behind the scenes, because this whole scene is muted, right? You don't hear him talking, but he starts grinning. You can kind of tell. First of all, this camera work, I wanted to put us kind of like inside the mind of this character a little bit, and so, you know, we're kind of like, we're very close in on him, very shaky, drifting in and out of focus. That was intentional, because I feel like it puts us more in the scene with him, and so it kind of like creates that sense that, you know, we're right there with him. But he starts smiling here because I think this was a warm-up take. I ended up using a warm-up take for this clip because I thought it was the best. And so we were just kind of like loosey-goosey preparing for the shot, and so I made this like I forget what I actually said. I made this comment or something, and so he like started grinning, and so that's what that is. But yeah, this ended up being a really good take.
Oh, yeah. Can we meet in the middle? Oh yeah.
And then if you're wearing headphones while listening to this, you would have heard a noise coming out of the left side, just there, just a little thud coming from the direction of the doorway.
Can we meet in the middle? Oh yeah.
And then the music goes to the right side.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Dude, putting all these hellos in the captions was kind of funny. I didn't really realize until the editing stage that he really just says hello a whole bunch here, but I think it still works. But from here, I transitioned from using a 50mm lens, which is more ideal for like close-ups and portraits and stuff, to I believe it was a 24mm, which is a little bit wider, and so you get more distortion around the edges of the frame. What that basically means is, like, you know, your subject is front and center like usual, but you can see more of the peripheral with a 24 than with a 50, and so what that does is to create a sense of like how to word this. It's kind of used to very subtly create this sense of like imbalance, if that makes sense. Like you can see the field of view is so wide that it becomes mildly disorienting. And so that's why I switched to that.
Hello? Who's there?
And then you can hear very distantly these noises of, like, what I did was I took sounds of a dog barking and I pitched them really low and doubled them up to kind of create this like monster sounding thing. Because I wanted whatever this creature was to sound very animalistic in nature, like there's something trying to like claw its way through the door.
Who's there?
We did quite a few takes of this shot because we did the whole like from hallway to door in one take, and so we did quite a few takes of that. I like this part. This is kind of a subtle nod to where the film is going to end up. Just a little nod to how this is going to end. You see him reflected in the mirror, so for a brief moment in this hallway, there's two of them. I know that's how mirrors work, but I did that intentionally for just a little bit of, like, you know, just a little bit of a, not a teaser, but I guess an illusion for what's to come. And then the wind sound effects start to pick up too. I also added a little drone, like a little instrument patch that was just kind of like this like cinematic droning sound, which is very quiet and kind of underscoring this whole sequence.
Whatever you do, do not open the door, no matter what you hear on the other side.
And now the sound effects are starting to ramp up. Things are getting louder and louder as tension builds. And then...
That's it.
Then he lets go and the sound effects start to like kind of fade out. Like the tension rises and then it starts to fall and relax a little bit.
That's it.
And then it's back. Yeah, that was a fun shot to shoot. I'll explain why, but I wanted that moment to feel like whatever this creature was that was at the door was starting to like as soon as he pulled his hand away, the creature knew that it had failed, and in a fit of rage, it started to like slam its whole body into the door, like this like 8-foot pit bull is trying to get in the door or something. That's kind of the vibe I wanted to give off. It's still very animalistic, but way more aggressive. I'm not the proudest with the sound effect that I used when that moment happens. Like the sound effects are fine, but then underneath I had that like bow thing that I did. I would have used something different in hindsight. But what the scene was in terms of actual shooting, this was the first take that we shot because, and I'll explain why, but my actor Ben wanted, he was a little bit worried about being able to nail that kind of like that genuine fear response. And so, you know, we had rehearsed it a little bit, trying to get him comfortable with the idea of like, you know, him like recoiling back from the door. But what I actually did, since all of the sound was replaced in post, what I did was he slowly reaches towards the door handle and then pulls away. He says his lines, and then I screamed as loud as I could. Like, he wasn't expecting it, and so I just screamed from behind the camera as loud as I could, and that's what happened. That fall was not scripted. He just, like, he recoiled and then slipped on the floor, and that was the take. Like, I thought it worked so well. Like, here, we'll go back and you can kind of see him react.
That's it.
But,
That's it.
but yeah, that was a fun take. I'll probably include that in the behind the scenes video that I do at some point. But yeah, that was pretty funny. And then here I piled up a bunch of droning instruments as well. I think I have about three instrument patches going on at once here. And then there's the sound effect.
Hey, sorry I can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then he tries to call a second time, but the line is now dead. So he is quite literally cut off from the rest of the world right now. In this moment, he's kind of like he's trapped in as much of a sense as he can be in this situation. So yeah, there wasn't really a good way to communicate this, but the second call he made was to the police. The first call he made was to his dad to kind of like, he wanted to see if his dad would pick up first. But when he gets the machine, he then dials 911, and that's when he realizes that the lines are down. So, whatever this creature is, it's having a massive effect on everything that's going on outside. And then he tries to rationalize it in his head.
Just the wind. Yeah. Idiot.
Of course.
It's just the wind.
What else could it be?
It's just the wind.
What else would it be?
Stupid.
Is the volume okay when I talk over this film?
Just the wind.
And it's from here that we cut to the rest of the film. That whole sequence that we just saw, the first 5 minutes of the film, that was all shot in one day. The rest of this film was shot another day. And I say that out of order. The part that you're about to see, like from here until the end, was our first day of production. What you just saw was our last day of production. We shot those scenes in the reverse order because I needed it to be dark out for when we shot this last scene. I wanted it to be dark out, and so that's why when the first day of shooting, it was dark when we started, and so we only filmed the last little bit. But yeah, let's keep going. These sound effects are from the actual camera itself. I didn't add these in post. Just a little funny thing, we wanted him to have a bunch of stuff that he's going through, like a bunch of like meals that he's like, oh, should I make this? Should I make this? And then eventually he decides that he's too lazy, and so he just makes a bowl of cereal because he doesn't feel like cooking anything. But you'll notice he's holding boxes of frozen food, and that is a fridge. So just a little blink and you miss it type thing. Just a little. We put them right back in the freezer when we were done shooting, but.
You know what?
Screw it. So he goes away, grabs cereal from up top. And this is kind of an extended sequence, but okay, this just shows how nice the house was that we were filming in. That drawer is a fridge. That little drawer that he's opening, that's a second fridge. So the reason the milk was in it is because it's an actual fridge. He had a bowl sitting in the sink, so he just like washes the bowl that, like quickly rinses out the bowl that's there and just uses it again. Just lazy, don't feel like cooking things. Like I said, this character's habits were very much influenced by me. Except I'm improving now because I live in an apartment and have to feed myself daily, so. Yeah. And then again we have that little allusion to how this is gonna end with the two Adams. I noticed the drawer fridge when I watched it. Yeah, the house we were using was very nice. You can definitely tell. See, here's one of the things that I used to kind of, on the subject of the house, like I was saying earlier, the house was very large. Like the house that I was using for this film was very big. And so one of the difficulties that I had was trying to make the place feel smaller, so that he would feel more trapped as the night went on. And this was one of the ways I did that, by having everything completely dark behind him. Because in actuality, what's behind him is an entire basement. Like there's an entire like recreational area behind him, and then there's a hallway leading to more rooms over there. But I had all the lights off except in the TV area, so that the room would feel a lot smaller. Yeah, the house is very nice. I'm sure you'd love it, but a little too big for me personally. But for the film, it was amazing. It was amazing. And now we get to my voice acting bit.
It is very dangerous and at large. Everyone is encouraged to lock their doors and remain inside until the matter is resolved. And in the weather, severe gusts of wind.
And that's how I connect two different things that we've mentioned previously at this point. Did a good job of making it feel small and trapped. Thanks. I'm so glad you think so. So what I just did in those lines that the reporter says, that I say, I guess, is I set up continued feelings of being trapped and increased feelings of paranoia. Like, we already know that the creature's out there, and now we hear a little clip saying that there is something, in fact, that is on the loose, and he kind of echoes the sentiment that the father said at the very beginning. Do not open your doors. Lock your doors. Remain inside. So I'm kind of hammering down on the idea that whatever's out there is very dangerous, and you should not open your door under any circumstances. Another good voice actor. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And then I also mentioned, I transitioned into talking about the wind. Adam was trying to, justify whatever thing was at the door. Like, he tried to dismiss it as just being the wind. And so I kind of tie into that by talking about the severe gusts of wind going through the area as well. It's never explicitly said whether the occurrences of this creature and the wind are related or not, and I'm not going to comment on that. But those are kind of like two threads that kind of intertwine at this point. And then he changes the channel and Nosferatu is on, which I have a video on Nosferatu coming out this weekend. So hey, if you want to learn more about that movie, because I think it's a great movie, if you want to learn more about it, stay tuned for that. But it also the clips of the movie specifically that I use kind of tie into different ideas that are going to come up very soon in the actual film itself. Just keep that in mind, I guess. So the very first shot of Nosferatu that we see is the shadow of the vampire coming over this guy as he cowers in fear, which is a very iconic shot, of course. And then we start to hear very distantly those same noises that we heard before. So he turns around, obviously, because he recognizes that whatever was at the door before is back now. And in the background, you see, the shadow of Nosferatu kind of rising up above him. So visual symbolism and whatnot.
Get out of here! I'm not gonna open the door!
And we also have scratching noises now, like the creature is clawing at the window as well as like snarling and growling. What we actually did was the friend of mine who lives in this house, he was crouched underneath the camera, scratching the door to kind of give Ben that visual cue or that audio cue. So that's how that looked. And then again, we see the two Adams. I love that mirror placement.
Quit it!
And so then we get a little jump scare from Adam there as he just like suddenly like bursts, like he suddenly goes very aggressive, because I think that's partially based in fear, but also he's kind of annoyed at this point. Like whatever's trying to come at him has done so repeatedly. It's like if a scam caller kept trying to call you. Like you keep hanging up, but they keep calling back. Like that's kind of the attitude that he has, is like just that frustration. But this is where the actual fear comes into play. That's two different sound effects I layered on top of each other. And I also did a little bit of a frame skip. It's very subtle, but
Quit it!
so what I did was the house that we were shooting in has these control panels set up all over the house, and one of the things you can do on that control panel is turn off all the lights in the entire house. Like with one press of a button, all the lights in the house go out all at once. And so while the guy was scratching at the door, his girlfriend was over by the control panel, just ready to shut all the lights off as soon as he yelled "quit it." But unlike in the movie, when you turn off all the lights in this house, it's a very slow fade, like this, like the light sliders are going down, and so there's a little bit of a frame jump here, which you can see. Like, it's very subtle, but you can definitely see that the frame has jumped a little bit between the lights on and the lights off. But when you actually watch it, it looks really good.
Quit it!
And that sound effect. Man, when we screened this at the film festival that I premiered this at, oh man, when that sound effect went off, like the walls shook and everyone immediately started like screaming. Like it was so fun. I love how this scared everyone there. It was great. So yeah, then he backs away. And this is something dreadful that I thought was insanely cool, is the whole time this creature that's been trying to get in, presumably the creature that his dad was warning him about, it's taken on it it's possessed very animalistic characteristics. Like we've never seen this thing, but it's making like animal noises, like snarling and growling outside. It's scratching at the door, and then as soon as Adam yells, all the lights in the house cut off, and the creature knocks at the door. That's terrifying to me. Like I mean, like. It's like whatever this creature was trying to, like, it first used like an animal behavior to try and get in this thing, like try and get in his house, and when that didn't work, it stood up and knocked. Like, that's insanely creepy to me. And when the creature speaks, it speaks in his dad's voice.
Hey son, it's me. Please, let me in.
So, obviously there's a filter on there that kind of like, muffles his voice. Because I think it's scary, and two, because there's a heavy door in between them, and so naturally only lower frequencies are going to kind of pass through that door. So it makes sense that his voice would be muffled like that. What I did in terms of the voice, one of the big acting directions that I told my dad, who was the voice actor, was he needed to learn how to unspeak, like speak in a way that's not human. And so what that meant for him is kind of like there's not really that much inflection when he talks. Like the rise and fall of his words don't match up with the words that he's saying, And it also includes uncomfortable pauses at weird points in a sentence, like where you would normally have a pause. There wouldn't be any of that. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain because I'm basically like taking speech and making it not normal. But it's like, you know, because I love the idea of the uncanny valley, you know, things that look human but aren't. So I'm kind of applying that concept to this little bit here, things that sound human but aren't. This From Here Till the End was very heavily influenced by Mandela Catalog. If any of you know that series, you would definitely be able to identify that. Like, I don't know, just the idea of things that look and sound human but are so much more terrifying than that. That was something that that influenced me heavily when coming up with this project. And there's a final layer of this story that I haven't talked about yet. There's a final symbol, if you will, to this story that I haven't mentioned yet, but that's coming up very soon. What I did for the actual speech, on top of coaching my dad to talk in weird ways, I also used pitch correction in Cubase, because one of the things that they have is pitch correction, because, you know, musicians will use this for like making music, right? And so they have pitch correction, which is, it's kind of like auto-tune, but it's not you can do auto-tune, but it's not auto-tune because you're doing it yourself. Like, I'm adjusting the pitch myself rather than having it automatically done. So what I did was, you can pitch different syllables of speech. It doesn't have to just be like one chunk. Like, so what I would do is I would take like one syllable or one word of his and I would pitch it up or down on there, so that, you know, at some parts it's lower, at some parts it's higher, but the tone is somewhat consistent with his father in the past, but it's not quite there. It's like, it's very uncanny speech, and so that's where that comes in.
Dad?
Dude, as soon when I screened this, as soon as Adam said "Dad," everyone in the audience was like, "No, no!" Like, it was so funny.
You said you'd be a few days.
I was wrong. Everything was fine. Please open the door. I can't find my keys.
The captions are even uncanny too.
Please, Adam. It's code on. I think there's something out here.
And that's one of the ways that he gets him, is by, he not only does he beckon him to open the door using his dad's voice, but he also addresses the fact that there might be something out there, as if the thing that's saying it isn't the thing that's out there. Like, I just, it's so good. Like, first it's a request, please let me in, like, please open the door. And then it starts to justify it. I can't find my keys. It's cold. There's something out here. Help me. So it kind of turns into like a cry for help, but it's very unsettling because, you know, if someone was normally crying for help, like if there was a monster out there, they'd be very freaked out, but the tone is still like very monotonous. So it's kind of like talking, you know, I'm very scared. Please let me in. Like, I don't know. It's very unsettling because it's so inhuman.
Please,
And here's where some distorted white noise starts coming in. That was it. Did you catch it? That was the final layer. That was the final layer of the story. Let me go back. As soon as he unlocks the door, if you have your captions on, I'll give you a second to read that. That was the final layer of this story. And that was the symbolism that I had going into this story. This, what I wanted this story to be is a modern day retelling of the fall of man in the garden. That's what this was meant to be. Like, the character's name is Adam, which is very on the nose, but his father leaves him alone in the house with one instruction: do not do X, do not open the door, do not eat the apple. And so then something comes up to disrupt that. Something comes to the door and says, no, don't listen to him, open the door, let me in, like invite me into this, just like, you know, the devil was kind of invited by Adam and Eve into the world through what they did, through their actions. And so that's a little bit of trickery I added in the captions just to make the final point like stick home. And then distorted white noise, and things get really creepy. And if you remember that shot from Nosferatu, thank you for letting me in. If you remember that first shot from Nosferatu, where he sees where there's this creepy shadow coming over this guy who cowers in fear, and then you look at this shot where the same thing happens. Thank you for letting me in. And then the last shot is a door opening, and behind that door is a devil. And then it fades to black. And then here's another last little thing to nail it home. The don't comes in a little bit later. That's just a little fun device I used. But yeah, so this whole film was meant to be a modern day retelling of the Garden of Eden and the fall of man using the horror setting, which I thought worked really well. I used to, in the original script, he was going to, instead of cereal, he was going to be like chewing on an apple while watching the TV, and then when he goes to the door, he like takes another bite, opens it, and then the apple falls from his hand. I thought that was a little too on the nose in hindsight, but actually, when, you know, in shooting the short film, I think this ended up, I think it came across very well. And like, well, I mean, the message is kind of implicit. Like, when I talked to people about it, they were like, oh yeah, I see it now. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this with all of you, and the people who watch this live stream back later. But yeah, this film was meant to be that. And what I did, the reason that I had, beyond being like inspired by Mandela Catalog, the reason that the creature that we see is a distorted because if you didn't know, the creature is just a distorted and stretched version of Adam's own face. I had the actor stand in front of some harsh lighting as we opened the door, and then come on, please. There. So that's him. That is his own face. I made him make a bunch of creepy faces, and then I chose the best one, and I just kind of like pulled and stretched it and distorted it, and I think it looks pretty good. So this is the alternate. It's not an alternate. This is I was inspired by Mandela Catalog, but this does not take place in the same world. But yeah, so my reasoning behind making the creature a distorted version of his own face was because, you know, in the fall, when Adam and Eve eat the fruit, they introduce sin into the world. And what sin is, because sin is not an inherent creation in itself, sin is a distortion and corruption of characteristics that were made good. So like that was the inspiration for that. So, you know, just like sin is a corruption of things that are good, this thing is a distorted and corrupted version of Adam. And so that's why I chose to do things that way. And I thought it'd be very uncanny. Just one last bit of uncanniness, like I've been talking about. If instead of cutting back to something in motion, because Adam is in motion throughout this whole film, when we cut to the creature, it was still and unmoving, like completely motionless, unaffected by any environment around it. And so that's why it's a still image that we see. So yeah, that's kind of the technical things of what I did for all of that. And again, because I've been alluding to this the whole time with the symbolism around the two Adams. So this is Adam 2, and you know, all the other times that we've seen Adam like reflected in a mirror or something, it was kind of an indirect allusion to what was coming in the future. Because whenever he's coming towards the door to confront this monster, you see him reflected in that mirror. So the two Adams are already linked whenever he comes to the door. So, you know, just a little bit of visual symbolism. And then, like I said, the final shot is the scene in Nosferatu where the door opens all on its own, and then the vampire appears suddenly in the door, very uncanny, very rigid, just like the distorted Adam. And then organ music plays us into the credits. And then the don't comes in after Let It In. So it's kind of like, it's almost like in this and all the promo material that I made for the short film, that the creature is kind of exerting its power on the title card and credits itself. Like it's trying to tell other people to let it in too. And then the don't comes in a little later. And then I'm gonna let the credits play because I have a little funny thing that I did here as well. So this is my dad. He's credited as father in this film because obviously he voiced the father. And then I have this as father in quotations, so it's kind of meant to be like, you know, a false father or an imitator. And so that's why that happens. But also you can see very faintly, as soon as this shows up, you can see the face very, very faintly in the background. And he kind of lingers for the rest of the credits. And that's how it ends. That is the ending of Don't Let It In, a short film. So, yeah, it was really fun to make. I had lots of fun. And that little bit at the end is just kind of like one final scare for the audience that sticks around that long. Is like if they squint really hard at the frame, they notice that the monster never left, it's still there. And then it kind of like it hard cuts from the credits into this really loud white noise, so it's kind of like the creature just sitting there staring at whoever's watching, which I thought was really fun. So yeah, that is the entirety of the short film Don't Let It In. And
So, yeah.
that's a lot of the like breakdown and symbolism and all that that I kind of incorporated into this thing. Let's get some music going. Hang on. Alright, there we go. So after all that, what do you think?
Yeah, you saw it at the end. Yeah, that was kind of meant to be the one final scare. That was influenced by. There's a lot of like horror series that I watch that will do a similar thing, where they'll have this like very scary face, but it's like so dark and so transparent that you have to really squint to see it. But if you look hard enough, there'll be this face staring back at you, and like, I don't know. I liked the idea, and I thought it fit with the tone of my film. It's very inspired by analog horror, but it's obviously not in itself an analog horror. But yeah, I think it went really well, all things considered. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should mention about the film. You'll be seeing at some point a behind the scenes and blooper video for it. What I'm gonna do is, because I don't actually shoot much behind the scenes and bloopers and stuff, it's only just what I happen to catch on camera, because I don't unlike most film sets, I don't have 15 cameras rolling constantly all day. That would get very taxing on my computer. So what I'm going to do is, after I release my second short film, which will be coming later this month, I will be doing a behind the scenes / gag reel for both as kind of like a mega compilation. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Any questions before I head out? Like any final things you're curious about the film? And if you're watching this stream in the future, like if you couldn't catch it live and you're watching it later, put some questions in the comments below, and I'll answer them, because I really enjoyed making this film, and I want to. I'd be happy to explain it to people if there's any confusions. But yeah, if you have any questions, put them in chat or leave a comment down below, and I'll answer them. Because I don't know. I really loved making this film. This was, like, I love doing horror stuff because horror lets you get really weird. And I like getting weird and very experimental with my filmmaking. It's something I very much enjoy. For those of you who have watched any of my previous short films, you might notice some similarities between this and a short film I did called The Angler, which is also available on my channel. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I made this film as a more flushed out and narrative intense version of that. Because I liked the concept of The Angler, and I'm like, this is great, but it's very short. I can do better. And so I took similar concepts and I improved on them, and that's what Don't Let It In ended up being. So yeah. And the premise, like I said, is very similar. It's this supernatural creature beckoning a character towards. In The Angler, it was a window, but for here, it was a door. And just like the terror of what's beyond that barrier. And I did a very similar stuff, like cosmic terror. Like, this thing lured a guy to the window with these like angelic choirs and a soothing voice, like, don't be afraid, come to the window, follow my voice. And then he gets like sucked through it and dies, and like, so yeah, this was I took the same concept and just kind of improved it, because that was just like a quick one-off thing. But I thought I figured in it, at least in my mind, I wasn't finished with that concept yet. But now I think I am. So yeah. I mean, I'm not done with horror. I love making it, and I have so many great ideas that I want to try, but I'm not sure how best to do that yet. But that's what the creative process is about. It's you finding your way. And we've been going for an hour and a half. This is not going to be a like super long stream. Like, I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. every afternoon, all afternoon. This is not going to be that. I just wanted to come on here, talk about the short film, break it down, provide some commentary, and encourage you to watch it for yourself. Link is in the description. Go watch it 100, nay, 1,000 times. Put it on loop and listen to it while you sleep. I think that'd be really cool. Also, I bought, this is for Nia because we were talking about it. I bought a sleeping mask yesterday. Came in clutch. It came in clutch. Like, it was so worth it. For any of you who don't know, my apartment it's very nice. It's very hot right now because we're in the middle of a heat wave, but we're getting an AC unit today, I think. But my one criticism is that my window faces directly into the sun in the mornings, and so I'm always woken up at like 6 or 7 in the morning with just bright sun like blaring down on me, and the curtains, or not the curtains, the blinds that are over the window do not cover it up. Yeah, it's a very good thing. It is a very good thing. Like, I put on the mask and woke up this morning and everything, like, obviously it didn't let any light in. Like, I had the mask on and it was pitch black. I lifted the mask just slightly and like I was in heaven for a second there. Like, not emotionally, just bright. It was just like I lifted the mask and it was pure, like, piercing white light for a solid like 2 minutes or something. Yeah, the mask definitely helps. If I had any right to like renovate this building, which I don't, I don't have permissions to do that, I would install curtains in this room to kind of help with that sun. But yeah, like, it was stark, the difference. Like, and it was very comfortable. Like, I figured it would take a couple nights to get used to, but nah, I was chill with it the whole time, which was great. So probably the rest of you watching this video don't care about that, but excuse me, but I slept well tonight, and that hasn't happened for a week. So hey, yeah, it's very good, because yeah, the sun comes in very bright in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. I need my sleep. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave now. If anyone has any questions about the short film that I didn't tackle in this live stream, put them in the comments below if you're curious. I'll absolutely answer any questions you have. So thank you everyone so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. And if you haven't watched the short film yet, spoilers, I guess, but watch it anyways. It's really good. You should watch it. So thank you everyone, and I will see you all tomorrow on Twitch for another stream. I hope you're excited for that. We're gonna keep doing Red Dead. Hope you're excited because I know that I am. And cut. Oh, bye Nia. Bye Nia. Sorry. Bye everyone. Bye. Alright, now I'm gonna call cut. And cut.